Hey everyone, Carolina Venom here. Today I am looking at two Verizon prepaid phones, one being the Motorola Moto G and the other one being the LG Optimus Exceed 2. I'm doing this comparison here because these prices on these phones are about the same price, and both of them are good phones, but I want to kind of point out some of the advantages and disadvantages of each phone and the pros and the cons and what I think of each phone and which one I would prefer over the other, and give you the specs and run some tests and all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and get into that right now. The Moto G is running Android 4.4.2. It has a 4.5 inch display with 1280 by 720 pixels at 329 ppi. It does have scratch resistant glass. It has a 5 megapixel camera on the rear with LED flash, and also a 1.3 megapixel camera on the front, and it records a maximum 720p HD at 30 frames per second. It has a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM with 8 gigs of built-in storage, and it has a 2070 milliamp hour battery, and I am not sure of the tall core standby time. Now we'll go over to the Exceed 2 and give you the specs of that phone. This phone also has a 4.5 inch display. Well, actually, it's running Android 4.4.2 as well. It has a 4.5 inch display at 800 by 400 pixels at 199 ppi. It also has scratch resistant glass. It has a 5 megapixel camera on the rear with LED flash. It also records at a maximum 800 by 480 WVGA resolution, and you can take pictures while recording, and it has no front-facing camera. It has a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon 200 processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM, 4 gigabytes of built-in storage with around 2 gigs available to user, and it will hold up to a 32 gigabyte micro SD card. It has a 2100 milliamp hour battery with around 12 hours of talk time and an estimated 18 days of standby time. Now, when you look at these two phones here, like I said, both of these two phones are running basically about the same price, around $80 on the Verizon website. Now, you can get them on discounts at various retail stores, at times. Both of these here are 3G devices, which is, a bummer, because to me, 3G is just out, especially since LTE is, taking over. But these here are both 3G devices. Same size screen and everything. We'll go ahead and turn the phones on, which they're already on. I'm just going to flip them on. And of course, with the HD display on the Motorola, it has a much sharper, much crispier looking screen. The LG don't look too bad for only 199 ppi and 800 by 400 resolution, but of course the Motorola is brighter, it is more vibrant, and it does look a whole lot better as far as sharpness goes, because the LG has kind of a blah, it's clear, but it just does not have the sharpness of the Moto G. And if I can get it to focus in good, maybe I can show you what I'm talking about. But this one is very clear and very sharp, and the LG, you can tell, is just not quite as good. It's just kind of a blah display, but it does work. And for some reason it went off. It shouldn't have went off like that, but anyway, maybe I ought to go in here and change the screen timeout. But like I said, the screen on the LG is decent, but it's just not near as good as a HD display on the Moto G. I'm going to go ahead and run a benchmark test on these two phones. I've already done one and everything, but I'm going to go ahead and run another one. So we'll go ahead and start them both. Both of these phones here are nice phones. Of course, like I said, there is some pros and some cons to each phone, and of course, there might be some things that people like about the Motorola that they hate about the LG, and vice versa. That's why I'm doing this comparison for. Sitting here looking at it, the Motorola does look a little bit thicker than the LG. Another thing that I like about the LG over the Motorola is the fact that your touch screen, your touch buttons here are not on screen. They are on screen. The LG, the touch buttons are off screen, so you really get the full 4.5-inch display on the LG, whereas with the touch buttons on screen, you don't quite get the full 4.5-inch display. So that's another thing. So we'll check the speeds here. The Motorola is coming in at 8,635, which is a really good speed compared to a lot of phones. Of course, don't compare to some of these higher end phones that are out today, but this is a very good speed for this phone. Over here to the LG, this one here is coming in at 5,571, which is also a pretty respectable speed, being that it's a dual core processor, and it's running a Snapdragon 200, whereas over here you got a quad core processor running a Snapdragon 400. So there is a big difference in speed, and you can really tell it when you're using the phone. Both of them are pretty smooth phones, and both of them really don't have much lag to them. But of course, the more you do with the phone, this is going to run a whole lot faster than the LG Optimus Exceed 2. Now, as far as the pros and the cons go, the pros with the LG is it has good call quality, good battery life, very good battery life. It has expendable memory. The battery can be removed, and it's running Android 4.4.2, and it's just a good phone all the way around. Some of the cons with this phone is the fact of the lack of a front-facing camera. And the video recording only being a maximum WVGA recording. So that's kind of the only two. And also the screen quality is very poor compared to an HD display, being only 800 by 400 resolution. So them are really the only three negatives that I really see with this phone. Other than that, the phone is very nice, very smooth, and I've not had any issues with it. Now, some of the pros with the Moto G would be the screen resolution of 720 HD resolution. Their front-facing camera is a nice touch, records in 720 high definition, and the quad-core processor for more speedy surfing the web and all that good stuff. So basically, that's some of the pros with the Moto G. Now, some of the cons is the fact that the camera has very few settings. It don't have a whole lot of settings on it as far as being able to customize things like you can on the LG. It's got very little settings on it. It's pretty much just a basic stripped camera. But you can download, of course, you can download apps for different camera apps and stuff like that. Another con on this phone is the fact that you cannot remove the battery. That's a big minus there. Another thing is it's not 4G LTE. That's a minus for both of these phones, is the lack of 4G LTE. Another minus on this phone here to me is the lack of expendable memory. You have 8 gigabytes of built-in storage, and that's it. And of course, you don't have all of that because you got system, memory. So, with the lack of, expendable memory, the inability to remove the battery, and stuff like that, and the lack of 4G LTE, that really kind of puts a big damper to me on the Moto G. I like it because it's got a faster processor and all that stuff, and a front-facing camera, but to me, without the ability to change the battery or expendable memory. Now, I did make a video stating that the back of the phone cannot be removed, and I was wrong on that. You can remove the back of the phone, But right back here it does say battery not user removable. So that right there, you know, you can't change the battery by yourself, which I think is kind of a crazy thing for any manufacturer to do. I personally don't like the fact that you're not able to change the battery in this phone. But it is a good phone. You know, reception is on par. Both of them are really good on reception. In my house, I can get around 2 to 3 bars of service. Just depends on where you're at. Call quality is good on both of these phones. I think the LGs is slightly better because LGs always had good call quality on their phones. But the Motorola is also no slouch either. And I think they're both good phones. I'm not really sure which one takes better pictures. Both 5 megapixel with LED flash. I've not done a test between these two phones as far as photos go. I do know that the Motorola will be better at taking video because it does have 720 video as opposed to WVGA quality over here on the LG. So all in all, my favorite phone out of these two phones is the LG Optimus C2. It is lighter, a much lighter phone than the Moto G. You know, even though it has a slower processor, lower res screen, to me the winner is chosen between mainly, I like the fact that the touch buttons are down here on the body of the phone instead of being on the screen of the phone. The fact that you can put extra memory in it, you know, up to a 32GB micro SD card, and the fact that the battery can be removed. So that's really the basic things there that make me choose the LG Optimus C2 over the Moto G. Now, if the Moto G had LTE and this one didn't, then of course I would choose the Motorola. But like I said, the lack of the expendable memory and the battery not being able to be removed, that really, even though the front-facing camera is important to me, and the high-res screen and the quad-core processor is really good, you know, of course, you know, like I said, I'm doing a comparison here to kind of see, you know, to show you the difference between these two phones. Both of them are good phones. They really are. I mean, there's really not any issues I've had with either one of these phones. But basically, you know, like I said, my personal preference, if I had to choose one or two phones, it would be the LG because of the extra stuff that the Motorola cannot do. So, you know, going by that, you know, everybody has their own opinions. Everybody, you know, thinks, you know, has their own preferences as far as phones. Some people may not mind the internal memory with no extended memory. Some people may not mind the non-removable battery. And if so, the Moto G is a very good choice. It's a very good phone. Both of them are equally good. Both of them are pretty fast. They do work really well. And I don't mean to ramble on here and keep repeating myself, but I just want to make it clear that both of these phones are decent. They are good. And there's not really any issues with any of them other than the pros and the cons that I did make specific. So anyway, any questions or comments about these two phones, please feel free to ask me. I will get back to you as soon as I can. And I will go ahead and add that some people that send me comments, there's not a reply button, so I'm not able to reply to your comments, but I will do whatever I can to answer them. Subscribe to my channel. I sure would appreciate it. Two really good phones, about the same price. Like I said, the Motorola is a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier than the LG. But both of them are really nice phones, and I do recommend them both, but my personal preference would be the LG over the Motorola. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a good one, and we'll talk at you later.